And so now we're seeing in this shock on the system, and what I would argue, both in terms of aid, but also in terms of multilateralism more broadly, is that it's not just an option between attacking it and defunding it, as the United States is trying to do, or in defending a status quo that for many wasn't tenable in the first place, but that actually this can be an opportunity to reimagine aid and reimagine the UN and address the long-standing critiques that have been placed. The idea that, rich countries are giving to poor countries doesn't make sense in a world in which you don't have such clearly defined blocks. You've got more and more emerging powers that are becoming donors themselves. And I think one of the things that on the outside we don't really see is that this specific pot of money, which was official development assistance, which the big donors agreed to give, that's the 0.7% target, was meant to be for a very specific purpose, which was poverty reduction. And now it's being used for all kinds of things, increasing numbers of humanitarian crises, of course, climate action. It's in some countries, more than 1/4 of their ODA is going towards hosting refugees on their own soil. And so this relatively small pot of money is now being pulled in many different directions. And there really is, I think, a genuine feeling that this might be the beginning of the end of aid as we have known it. And if that is the case, what are the other levers that those who care about development can use to advance this agenda? And one of the primary ones that I think is getting the most traction right now is how do we encourage and drive structural transformation? So what are the drivers of the inequality in the first place that makes countries in need of aid, and how do we tackle? The second part of this story is an effort to rewrite the UN Charter to try to address some of these weaknesses. Last year, the Security Council had 305 meetings, which was the most in a single year since its founding, and passed 46 resolutions, which was the lowest since 1991. The word environment doesn't appear in the UN Charter. It's a document that was crafted with a 1945 mindset and that sees the world in a 1945 way. And 80 years later, we need a software upgrade, is what I would say. So we have initiated a new coalition, a new campaign that is trying to invoke a little-known article of the UN Charter, Article 109. And so the promise was, it's World War II, it's a particular moment in time, just sign up, and within 10 years, we will revisit this and redistribute power accordingly. So 10 years came along. A majority of countries were in favor of calling a review conference, as this article allows for, but felt the timing wasn't right and kind of pushed it off to some future moment. And 80 years later, this built-in review mechanism has never happened. We cannot wait for another global tragedy like the Second World War to build a new governance on its ruins. And yet, actually, it has almost taken that for people to take this seriously. So this is our new coalition, and essentially we are trying to mobilize member states to invoke this article. It requires a 2/3 majority of the members of the General Assembly. I got literally laughed at sometimes when we've raised this, called naive, called all kinds of things. And I think it's those of us who are willing to accept being called naive because we think that there is a vision that we can get to if we fight for it, that eventually make change.